Welcome to Influence Matters, the show for purpose driven leaders who are ready to turn their expertise into influence and their story into impact. I'm your host, Clara Rose, literary consultant, publishing strategist, and the creator of the spoken book method. Let's jump into today's conversation. Let me tell you about my guest today. Shane Barker is a digital marketing strategist. We all need one of those. He's an entrepreneur and the founder of TraceFuse. So that's a company that helps Amazon brands protect revenue by identifying and removing policy violating negative reviews. I'm sure he does way more than that, but that was super interesting to me. And with years of experience working with SaaS companies, which is software as a service companies, for those who don't know, e-commerce brands and entrepreneurs, Shane specializes in growth strategy, influencer marketing, SEO, and conversion optimization. He's been featured in major publications, spoken at industry events worldwide, and is passionate about helping business owners like you and me scale smarter in an increasingly AI driven marketplace. Please help me welcome Shane. Welcome,
Hey,
my
Claire.
friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This
So,
is exciting.
it is my pleasure. AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know it's a part of our world, but okay, so I read your bio, but tell us what it is you really do. Because it always is
Yeah.
different than our bios. Tell
Yeah,
us.
yeah, the bios are, I do a lot of things. So it's funny. So I really grew up in the hospitality industry. So I grew up opening restaurants, went from a busser all the way to a server to actually going and traveling the world, or at least traveling the United States and opening restaurants. And so that was really how I started off working for another company. And then because of that, I've always, been an entrepreneur as well. And so I actually opened a bar in Chico, California. This was a long time ago now. And then I've just always done digital marketing stuff. I have my own personal brand, shanebarker.com, which is where I do consulting and, SEO and influencer marketing and all the fun stuff. And then I did teach at UCLA as well. I actually helped create the influencer marketing curriculum over there with a colleague of mine, Amanda. So long history there. And then we jumped into and started TraceFuse about 6 years ago, give or take. And it took about 2 years of really being able to kind of figure out how to file with Amazon and get reviews removed for sellers on Amazon. We'll kind of talk about that here in a little bit. And so now we have almost 800 brands that we work with, and we've removed over 20,000 reviews for customers, once again, sellers that are on Amazon on product reviews. So very, very proud of that. I've done a lot of things in between. We don't have enough time to talk about my failures. We're talking about successes today, but my failures would have to be a 10-hour podcast or something like that.
Right? Welcome to the world of being an entrepreneur, right? It's a
Yeah,
part of our
yeah, yeah.
lives. I'm
That's it.
afraid, right? We win some, we lose some. I'm super interested in the whole negative review removal process. Is that all that TraceFuse does, or is there like a whole suite full of stuff, or that's just what it does? That one thing?
Yeah, the reason why
Wow.
we hyper focused on this, because usually I'm going to say the old Shane, right? We're at Shane 4.0 now. So Shane 2.0 would have absolutely added more products and done all kinds of stuff. But what I
Mhm.
realized was, because we were the ones who actually started this space. So we were the first ones to be able to get reviews removed, actually start a business around that. And when we started it, people didn't think it was
Interesting.
possible, didn't think it was something
Mhm.
that you could do. And we were able to prove them wrong and obviously figured out. But it did take us 2 years to figure it out, like with filing cases, where to file cases with Amazon.
Mhm.
So it was not an easy process. But the good news is, like I said, we've got a lot of clients now and good things are happening. So
Mhm.
the process of it, and just so everybody understands, is it's not necessarily just removing any reviews, right? Any critical reviews, critical
Mhm.
being 1, 2s, and 3 stars. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that is if there's a review that really talks about the product and is saying whether it's good or whether it's bad, we don't go after those, right? Because really there's some
Mhm.
constructive criticism, there's some value in the products that and people offering constructive criticism. Now, it does kind of suck it's in a public forum, and where everybody can see
Right.
it, but it is something that, the product, or, no different than you or anybody. If you
Right.
created something 10 years ago, it's very different than what it was 10 years ago when you created it, right? I mean, it evolves. And
Mhm.
so what we look at is anything where they violate Amazon's guidelines. They mention competitors, pricing,
Ah,
cussing,
okay.
mention like any kind of hate speech, or what we call
Mm.
FBA related stuff. FBA for Amazon is you have a container full of products and you move them over to Amazon and
Mhm.
Amazon ships out, well, guess
Right.
what? And somebody gets a product late and says, oh, I hate this product. It was 2 weeks late. Well, that's a shipping issue, not a product issue. And so those are the types of things that
Right.
we're fighting for sellers. It's not reviews that give real information and are constructive to being able to improve the product. Even the seller might not like them, but there is some value in those for sure.
For sure. So let's talk about the FBA because I currently happen to have a client that we're not going to do FBA, which is fulfillment by Amazon. We're going to do fulfillment by merchant, which is the FBM,
Hmm.
which is the other option. So I'm learning
Hmm.
all this interesting stuff about working with Amazon, which you don't actually get to talk to a live body. You have to use their uh, their massive tutorials, and it's been like brutal. But I'm curious about um, how you work with, and can you work with FBA versus FBM, and do those fulfillment by merchant people get the same, that so this software is the same regardless who's fulfilling,
Yeah.
because
So
it's
if
connected to outcome or
Yeah, that's
reviews.
exactly it. Yeah. So really what it
Okay.
comes down to is the process will be the same. It just for the FBM, we won't be able to file anything that goes against shipping or something like that, right? Because that's obviously you shipped out as the seller. And so if there was an issue, now that obviously it could still be USPS and there's different things there. But the problem with it is Amazon, you can go to Amazon and say, hey, this wasn't us, this was USPS. That can be debatable, right? You could be lying or something could be
Mhm.
happening there. So really what it comes down to is if it's FBA, Amazon's shipping out, there's nothing to debate, right? You know that Amazon knows that they ship out, that it was their issue. So we have a leg to stand on. If it's FBM, we just don't go after the shipping stuff or anything that would have been related to Amazon, because once again, that's a seller thing or, whatever, current provider, mail provider that you use.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. So then, what what kinds of things, if you're FBA or FBM, but it's not about shipping, what kinds of things then can you get removed? What kinds of things, and does that make a huge difference for the seller?
Yeah, great question. So, yeah, so really what it is anything that violates Amazon's community guidelines. So, if you look up Amazon, you can put Amazon's community guidelines, and that really is the premise of what we're looking for, right? So, we're looking for if
Mhm.
somebody custom a review. So, it can be a legit review, it can be nice paragraph, talk about how long you've used the product, what you liked, what you didn't like. But if you're using, I don't need to go into the cuss words. I think we all know what they are. The F
Right,
word, S,
right,
A, all the
right.
fun stuff. Then great. That's going to be a situation where we're going to go and file something to try to get those removed. Because Amazon doesn't want people cussing on the platform. Another
Mm,
thing that they also take a look at is, if you're looking at, if you compare products. So if somebody says, hey, I really like these Air Maxes, but I'll tell you, my favorite shoes have always been the Adidas X1s, right? And then what you're really saying is you like the Nikes, but I would much rather have the Adidas. And so people go, oh,
mm,
maybe I should go buy the Adidas, right? And so sometimes that can be on purpose, and it can be a situation where they're trying to
mm,
push people over to their products. And so there's a lot of things, a lot of the guidelines were based off of what we call black hat, or what people were doing to try to game the system, right? And so Amazon caught on to that and said, hey, you can no longer do that. Right. And so that's what a lot of those guidelines are going
mhm,
after. Or if you give the owner's personal information, or if you mention an exact price.
mm.
So if you say, hey, I paid for this thing on Prime Day, it was 19.95, now it's 29.95, what a ripoff. You just can't do that. And that's just, once again, it's
Okay.
Amazon's own rules. And so that's what we base everything off of.
Okay. So the software then finds those things and then gives you a means to dispute them. So
Yeah.
just yeah, help me understand this
Yeah.
piece. Is it uh set it and forget it, right? Do we like hook up to TraceFuse and then voila, wah, everything just happens on its
All,
own?
all,
Or is this a service
all
that
the,
they're hiring you to do? Or
yeah.
talk to
Yeah.
us about that.
So absolutely. Yeah. So really what happens is it is a set it and forget it software. And it's funny that we actually say
Mhm.
that in our presentation. So I love
Do
that
you?
you even said that. Yeah, we really do. We really do. In fact, I
Uh,
I actually met the
cool.
guy, this was a few weeks ago,
Mm.
that actually has the rights to set it and forget it. I guess somebody let it lapse and he took
No.
it. Anyways, I was hilarious. Yeah, he goes, I actually have the rights to that now. And I go, oh, am I going to get in trouble? He goes, no, you're good. I was like, okay, cool. Just making sure. So yeah, so really it is a set it and forget it software. So what it is the
Interesting.
clients will come in. and they will sign up with us. They give us what we call a merchant token. A merchant token is like a
Mhm.
unique identifier for your store. And then we pull in all of
Mhm.
their ASINs. Or ASINs are going to be products, right? So if you think of ASIN as like
Mhm.
a product or a SKU, and those get pulled into our
Mhm.
system, the only thing that the seller needs to do is they go and they have to activate their products. And it's very simple. You literally toggle something from off to on. And what that means is that tells my team to go grab those critical reviews. We do run them through an AI software that's proprietary to us. We
Mhm.
started it about 3.5 years ago before ChatGPT
Mhm.
and all the fun stuff.
Mhm.
We run those through. And the reason why we did that is because to manually look at them with eyeballs, can be daunting
Ugh,
and people get
yeah.
tired and
Yeah.
mistakes can happen. And so we thought, well, if we're going to be looking at thousands of reviews on a daily basis and making assessments,
Mhm.
what we do is now we run all those through AI. The AI tells us, because it looks at Amazon's guidelines and says, this is compliant, this
Mhm.
is not compliant. If it is compliant, we don't do anything with it.
Nice.
There's nothing we're going to file on. But if it is not compliant,
Sure.
then what we do is we actually have these things called humans. Humans are these people that will be taken over by
Real,
AI here
real life
very
people.
soon. Yeah, yeah, like really actually heartbeats and you've got eyeballs.
Yeah,
It's
the whole
crazy.
thing.
It's the opposite of
Crazy.
AI, right? Yeah, it's nuts. So yeah, what we do there is you actually have to manually file with Amazon. So you couldn't even use AI even if
Mm.
we trained it up to file. So what happens is this
Mhm.
goes through a queue, and then our filers that have been trained obviously on how to file and where to
Mhm.
file, they go and look at those reviews and they say, okay, yep, that does violate Amazon's guidelines. What the AI said was correct. Now we're going to manually file a case. And so we manually file those cases. And the client, as you said, would set it and forget it. We have a credit card in our system. They don't pay a
Nice.
monthly fee or anything like that. And they only pay when reviews actually get removed. So that's kind of the caveat to this.
Oh,
We
okay.
yeah, so it's a performance
Oh,
based thing. And
that's nice.
we
I love
yeah,
that.
we did that because people didn't believe that we could remove reviews, right?
Mm.
So if I went to you
Right?
and said, "Hey, you want to
Mhm.
give me a big old retainer and I'll bill against that," and you're like, "I don't believe you can do it," and now you want a
Sure.
big retainer? Yeah, it's a hard no. Like everybody was like, "No, I'm not doing that." So
Right. No,
we thought,
thanks.
well, what happens?
Uh,
Yeah, and that's a hot, 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 hot. No, no, no. So yeah,
mm,
so we went in there and said, "Hey, how about if we just only pay for reviews to get removed?" And they said, "Well, why would you do that?"
mm.
And I'm like,
Love that.
because we can remove reviews. I'm
As we
not here to
can.
volunteer, right? Yeah, because I'm going to show you. And so now
Uh,
we've gotten the funny part is now it's actually the opposite. Before they didn't think we could do it, and now people are going, well, hey, well, we don't want you to remove too many. How many are you going to remove at a time? So it's been very interesting because I obviously me being the owner, seeing that
oh,
transition from
interesting.
is it possible to now like, hey, we gotta, we don't want to spend too much, but when they start removing reviews and sales go up, because
Mm.
that's the key with Amazon is the reviews
Right.
aren't just social proof of what people see. It also affects where you are, what we call the BSR, bestseller rankings. It also, where the algorithm, obviously, the better
Oh,
reviews you have. So if the reviews
sure.
affect everything. If you've got bad reviews and a
Mm.
great product, you're probably going to not be able to sell it well on Amazon. It's just one of those things. And so reviews are very, very important on Amazon.
Wow. That's a big deal right there. Right. So
Yeah,
and it could be I understand the money thing, right? We own 3 businesses, so I understand the whole, well, let's not spend too much removing these, but you have to be able to look at the return, right? Okay, we're
of course.
spending this much, but our sales increased by this much, right? You have to be able to look at those and
Yeah.
balance those out. So then the more, right, she who markets most, right, or she who removes the most reviews wins, right? Uh, that's interesting that people would like to cap that. Is it just a fear based? I'm going to be
I
spending too
think
much money.
Yeah, I mean, you have
Yeah.
margins on Amazon, so I think at times people are, margins are
Mm,
starting to diminish a little
sure.
bit. It could be a working capital things, right? And the good news is what I
Makes
tell
sense.
sellers, which is true, is we're not removing 50 reviews overnight, right? So the thing is this is a
Mm,
process of filing cases and getting emails to Amazon. I'll be honest, it's not a fast process.
okay.
Like, you're not going to see reviews be
Okay.
removed in 1 or 2 days for the most part because this takes a while and Amazon, doesn't respond to our first case filings and it's a process. And so that's why any seller that we talked to said it's not possible because the process is very, very nuanced. And so they just thought
Hmm.
there's no way you guys figure this out. And I was like, well, we spent 2 years and we did. So anyways, yeah,
Mm.
it is a pretty crazy process for filing, getting reviews removed. But I will tell you one thing, and you touched on it, is we actually have a proprietary calculator. And what I mean by that is you actually can go in and
Ah,
if you want to get from a
okay.
4.7 to a 4.8, it'll tell you, hey, this is approximately how many reviews we need to remove. This is what that cost would be. and this is what your revenue profit increase would be after the first month and the sixth month. And they can put in their custom numbers there and
Okay.
be able to get an evaluation. And I did that exactly for,
Nice.
people like yourself. I own my own businesses as
Mhm.
well. I don't have just I don't have the luxury of just spending cash and hoping everything works out.
Right.
We got to manage costs, right? So what I do
Right.
is people will take a look at that and say, hey, yeah, it does make sense to invest whatever $2,500 to make an extra $1,000 a month, and after 6 months it'll be an extra $8,000. Yes, I'm willing to
Right.
invest that and put that up there. So we do that because I want sellers to make better decisions, right? As much as
Mhm.
I do enjoy cash, and my wife enjoys cash, and my family and everybody does enjoy cash, but at the end of the
Sure.
day, I want them to feel better about the decision that they're making and
Mhm.
understand what that potential outcome could be. So we're trying to mitigate as much risk as possible for the sellers.
For sure. So is there like a so many variables that it's hard to say, here's what it costs per removal? Or is that like a set, to tell us what it is, if that's, like a hush
No,
hush kind of thing, or you don't want to share
no,
that. But I'm
no.
curious, right? I have these clients who gonna are just entering this world. I've not worked with a client before who's entered this world. So I'm super curious. Should I say, hey, this is something you're gonna need, and here's why, and here's the investment?
Yeah, no, no, great question. And I'm an open book with just about anything. So yeah, really, what we do is we do charge per review being removed, and we charge
Mhm.
$250. And so what that means is
Oh,
this:
okay. Nice.
we have about a 10% success rate. Well, 10 depending on category. So in other words, the
Mm.
easy way to look at that if you're a seller is that if you have 100 critical reviews, we can remove about 10 of those over time, right? So it doesn't happen, like I said, overnight. So about a
Mhm.
10% success rate, and so that they can use that as a variable or something they can go in and say, okay, this is what I'm looking at. This is how many reviews I think I can remove or we can remove. In some categories like pet supplements and beauty, we can sometimes get
Mhm.
up to 15 to 20% success rate because it's
Mm.
a lower cost item. It also has a long lifetime value. And so what happens is a lot of those, not a lot of them, there's sellers that attack each other. And so they'll give each other bad reviews. They'll actually
Ugh,
go in and they'll go in and
of
buy their
course.
products and give them bad reviews to knock them down. So we see a lot more
Of
aggression
course.
in those categories. Yeah. So that's sad, but
Sad.
we have a higher success
Mm.
rate there. It is super sad. Like, I'll be honest, it
Mm.
breaks my heart. It's because I just don't
Mm.
understand it. It's like it's already hard enough to do business, and now you're attacking
Right?
people, and I don't like unethical business at any point. So
Yeah.
yeah, it sucks,
Yeah.
but we're here to help them.
I love that. So these guys are for the very first time going on the platform, right? And selling in that way. How long in before they should consider using a TraceFuse or something like that to, should they set that up from the get go, right? Because it's a performance pay, right? So they should be able to say, oh, let's just set this up because, when they come in, we'll catch them as they come in, right? Is that a
Yeah,
good way to look
yeah,
at it?
great.
Or should they be there for a while?
There- There's a few different variables that I would look at, like it. So, and I always look at
Mhm.
things as if I own the brand and I was launching on Amazon. So I
Mhm.
treat everything as either I'm launching it or my mom is launching it, and I love my mom. So I
Yeah,
just want to make sure people know that I
you're
like
right.
my mom, and so I treat everybody's business like, hey, good
Yes.
things are going to happen. I got to help them out. So
Uh,
yeah, really,
mm,
what I would recommend, and there's a few things to look at, is if you have a product that was outside of Amazon, you guys have money and things are going well, then I would say you probably want to come in and protect that when you come on the platform, because somebody
mm,
might come in, they can sabotage your launch by giving you a 1-star review that literally crushes your
mm,
launch. And so if we come in, we have a monitoring side of it
mm,
where we actually monitor those ASINs. So when the reviews come in, our system will detect whether it's against Amazon's guidelines, and then we will file cases accordingly. But what I tell people is this: if you're a brand new brand starting off on Amazon, I'm not saying don't use us. The problem that we run into is they probably put a lot of working capital out there, and so
mm,
I don't necessarily talk people out of it. Well, actually, that's untrue. I've talked a lot of people out of it and saying, hey, maybe it's not the right time, right? Like, because
mm.
we do have an onboarding fee of $250. It's a one time, and that
Okay.
is a lifetime monitoring. But my question is that what I tell people is like, do you if you started making a little bit of money, I don't want to be the one to come in and grab that money from you, the $250. So I'm like,
Right.
do you want to give it a
Right.
month or two and see if we can get some sales going? I can introduce you to some people that can
Mm,
help you with more positive reviews. Amazon has
mm,
the Vine program. Maybe get some of that up and going. And it also depends on the how much they charge for their products, right? And so what we mean by that is like if
Sure.
if you have a product and if they're selling light bulbs and they're $4 a piece, well, there's what are you making on that? Maybe a dollar or two, right? So
Right.
does that make
Right.
sense to go and get rid of those reviews because you might have a very thin profit margin? And sometimes I'll
Hmm.
tell people, if I was you, I wouldn't do it because I just don't think it's going to make sense. Because if we have to remove 100 reviews at $250 and your profit margin is
Yeah.
$2 per light and you're only selling 100 a month, like
Right.
that doesn't make sense, right? That
Yeah.
doesn't pencil out.
That
And so,
doesn't make any
but that's,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. And I just try to tell people, hey, this is when I think you should sign up, or you know what? But I do
Mhm.
tell people to be more proactive than reactive. So what I mean by that is if you're an active seller and you're going good, you're at a 4.3, you don't want to drop down to a 4.2. So you should probably get in contact with us,
Right.
because if you drop to a 4.2, I've seen some sellers lose anywhere from 10 to 50% of their sales, because of that drop.
Wow.
Because the reason why is
Wow.
because you see 4.5 stars like visually.
Hmm.
And so when you lose
Right.
that half a star, there's only four for some reason, the psychology behind it.
Mm.
Some categories get
Sure.
hit up to 50%. And so in those situations,
Wow.
if they're anywhere close to that, I tell them, hey, you don't want to drop down, because then guess what? You're in a oh crap situation. You're losing your sales.
Right.
We've got to go and try to remove reviews. It doesn't happen overnight. Guess what? That's going to take a little time for that to happen. So I tell them, hey, give us a few weeks to try to make that happen.
That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. So, do most of the people who use TraceFuse then um, have multiple, like lots of products, or is this something that if somebody like my client has, they have a single product that they're putting out,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Are they a good candidate, or are you looking more for people who are they got a 10 or 100 or whatever?
Yeah. So the people that only have, let's say, one ASIN, we can absolutely help them. The issue when you only have one ASIN is you might not have, well, if you're just starting off, you don't have a lot of reviews. So we don't have a lot to
Right.
file on. So you're probably not going to see any traction until down the road, which is totally fine.
Sure.
But obviously for us, the more products you have, and I say the more critical reviews, and that sounds bad. I'm just saying that if you have a good amount, then obviously we have more to file on. If you don't
Mhm.
have a big amount, then we
Sure.
don't have a lot to file on, right? So that's really, if we're looking at, and I'm never encouraging people to go get more negative reviews so that we can remove them. That's not what I'm recommending here, right? But if you do have them and they're there, and trust me, if you launch on Amazon, you're going to have people that love your product, people that don't like your product. If you're at that point where you're getting more of those reviews, then great. That would be a perfect time for us to jump on. Whether you have one ASIN or 20 ASINs, that's the other thing too, is our fee of $250 for the onboarding. That covers your whole merchant token, which means it covers all of your ASINs underneath that. So you could have 1,000
Okay.
products underneath that merchant token, and those are all covered for that 250. There's no more that
Okay.
we charge for that.
Okay. Well, and 250 is
Yeah.
not a lot to onboard a new solution, honestly. From a
No.
business person perspective, that's like a one-time fee. Yeah, that's a
Yeah. Yeah.
no-brainer. For
Yeah.
it's like buying insurance. Right? That's all
That's
that that
exactly it.
is. Right?
And there's
So
no
I
monthly
don't I
fee.
don't see
So
that as a
that's the beauty.
negative. Oh,
Yeah.
see, there's just like nothing to lose, right? Pay your 250 bucks, get set up, turn it on, and if they do come in, if the bad reviews, which
You're
inevitably somewhere
protected.
along the line, some smarmy, I hate to use Karen as right, because that gives the name Karen a bad name, but right? There's just always going to be
It's
some
true.
smarmy person out there saying something obnoxious or a competitor. I don't know that that would be true for my clients for what they're putting out there, but I'm sure that
You never
most
know.
people watching this, yeah, they're
Yeah.
okay. So we're down to just, like 5 minutes left. What else does my audience need to know about TraceFuse? How you can make a difference? What else don't we understand or don't we know? What else can you tell us?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have a free tool that we've created, and what they can do is they can actually go to tracefuse.ai, and right above it'll say the Amazon review checker, and they actually can put in an ASIN. Yeah, that's it right there. You guys can actually put in the ASIN or put in the link to your product. Click check
Mm,
reviews, and it'll actually run a report for you for free. We don't charge for this at all. And what it'll do is
nice.
you verify your email address, yeah, and you get that report. And then when you get
Mm,
that report, it's actually going to tell you which reviews are in violation of Amazon's guidelines. And really, the goal of this tool is for sellers to go and try to do it on their own. I want them to be able to, if they can figure it out.
mm,
We have actually even have a PDF that we can send to them as well to show them how to do it. I know that kind of cuts into my business, but really at the end of the day, my goal and our goal really is to help sellers. I mean, we wouldn't create a free tool
Mm,
unless obviously it made
right.
sense for them to use it. So if you're a seller and you're a little saying, no, I don't really know if I have anything, you can go and use that
Mhm.
tool, verify your email address. You'll get a nice little report that'll tell you, hey, look at this over here. This is how many reviews. Maybe the last 5 or 10. Here goes why they're in violation. This is where on the Amazon's guidelines where they're in violation. So that's a free tool. Once again, very easy to use. My goal is to hopefully have sellers be able to start being able to file on their own, so they don't need us, which I know is a little counterproductive, I guess, if I'm looking to make money. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to help people. That really is
Yeah.
our goal.
Yeah. And the truth is, for most business owners, we are busy, right? We're
Yeah,
mired in the day-to-day operations and the stuff, right? So going and checking it out and finding out how much work it is only makes
yeah,
you more valuable. Right? Because when they go, oh yeah, I'm totally paying somebody else to do this for me. Who knows what they're doing, right? Spend a few
yeah,
hours on
yeah.
Amazon trying to figure out how to set something up and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, totally hiring a professional." I do it all the time. You're today, this is a good example. You're here with me with my producer in a studio, right? We're zooming in, not zooming, but we're in a studio setting because I don't want to figure that stuff out. Right? I don't want to figure out editing. Right? You pay the professional for the outcome that you want. And this is no different, right? Plunk down a little bit of
I,
money, make your life easier. I love that you have a tool that just helps them realize that for themselves, right? If you have lots of time in your hands, go knock yourself out and do it yourself. But most of us as business owners, we don't.
yeah.
That's the truth.
No, and I love that. I am just like you. I can't hire a mentor or somebody fast enough or somebody to do, because
Right?
back in the day I said, oh, I'll do it myself and this, that, and the other. And I wasted hundreds of hours. And now it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're good at something, I will hire you in a hot
Yeah.
second. Because guess what? I don't need to be good at
Yeah.
everything. I need to focus on sales and the other things that I'm, been
Right.
trained to do, and everything else should be outsourced. So that's the value of delegation. I
Totally.
do love that. Yeah.
Totally true. Totally true. Okay, what last question because we're out of time. Somebody who is not a for sale by Amazon, but for sale by merchant, but is a like they're well, most of my authors they're on Amazon using KDP, right? Can you also help them with reviews?
So we haven't ever had any authors that we've been able to help because it's a little bit of a different process.
Okay.
And if because what we're looking at is actual physical products, right? That people are selling, and so they actually need to, if they don't like the book, unless they potentially say something that violates Amazon's guidelines. So if they cuss or something, we could probably do something with that. But
Okay.
usually it's people that physically get products in their hands and say, hey, this is a
Well,
product. I don't
it's a
like this
book.
product. I tried it. That's
Yeah.
true.
It's a
That's
book,
true. As long as it's,
right? The book
yeah,
comes to
long as
them,
it's,
but it's a little different.
well, we'll take a look at
Okay,
that.
so we're
You
out of
never
time,
know.
but
Yep.
let's have a
Yeah.
conversation around that because I'm curious because, 50 plus authors of mine over time, um, that might be a relevant conversation for us to have. Okay, we're out of time.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time so much, my friend. All right, guys,
Yes.
wasn't that great information? I think we all need to have a look at what we're doing if we participate in the Amazon world in that way. See if TraceFuse might be a good fit for you. As always, I want to say thank you for joining me, of course, here at Influence Matters every week. And if you have been carrying a book idea that won't leave you alone, or if you are ready to finally get it written, I would love to help you. Whether you want to write every word yourself or speak your book into existence in just 4 to 6 months without writing a single word, there is a path for you, my friend. You can book a free 30-minute strategy or join the free Savvy Author community at thesavvyauthors.com. Until next time, keep crafting your message for the world.